So thank you for joining us tonight on the Producer's Circle. I'm your host, Gabe Castro, and this episode will focus on what it takes to manage and be a part of a great team. I have invited two phenomenal producers today to talk about their best practices and advice. I have Chamel Jordan, producer of Genealogy Quickstart, and Maurice Waters, the executive producer of Black Sci-Fi TV. Welcome.
Thank
Hi.
you. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you both on. I have teamwork is such a big part of what Philly Cam is and what making a production is, and so we often get asked just like, how do you work with other people? How do you make sure you get your thoughts across so that everyone feels like they're on the same page? But also as a team member, how do you feel supported in a production? And I was like, I know just the people to share that experience. So I would love to introduce my two guests so you have an understanding of who they are and why I invited them here, even though you can just trust me. And I will start with Maurice. Maurice Waters is the executive producer of Black Sci-Fi TV. Maurice started his career in the Philadelphia media market as a reporter, producer, and programming assistant. Through his works, he realized the demand for Black sci-fi products was increasing, and being a longtime collector himself, Waters decided to combine his passion for the genre with his extensive media experience. And as a result, he started BlackSciFi.com, a website that focuses on sci fi, sci fact, fantasy, entertainment, news, people, places, events, and the impact of those events on the African American community. Waters seeks to inform and inspire the imagination of individuals who aspire to live beyond the boundaries of everyday life. Welcome, Maurice.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Chamel Jordan, uh, is the producer and a genealogist of Genealogy Quickstart and all kinds of quick starts. Actually, it's evolved. But Chamel Jordan is a professional genealogist, producer, writer, and lecturer. Her biographical highlights include award-winning TV producer of Genealogy Quickstart, co-founder of Black Genealogy Experience, and creator of Visualizing the Past, a local history program for youth. Awards that she has received include 2018 Best Independent Producer in Instructional and Training by the Alliance for Community Media, a 2017 Learning Award from from the Camis,
Woo.
um, so much more, and 2019 Landside Education Foundation honoree. And there's so much that both of you do that is award winning because Marisa, you're also a Cammy Award winner, right?
Yep.
So, yes.
Nope, that's the best award. You didn't have to say any of the other ones. The most important one is the Cammy.
I want to just start by just hearing a little bit from each of you about your shows and like what is it about for anyone who wants to tune in and what inspired you.
Well, I started my show because I have a deep love for genealogy. I think it's so important and it's so therapeutic, actually, and grounding to know who you are. And I want everyone to be able to do that. But everyone isn't, they don't want to hang out in archives, they just kind of want the high levels. They want to know a little bit, but don't go too deep. So that's why I created the Quick Start to make it easier for people to gain an understanding of how to research your family. It's not this big daunting task. You don't have to hang out, in courthouses all the time, even though we love to do that. But I just wanted to make it easy for everyone to connect to who they are because that's what we all really want to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like what she just said because I feel like we are sort of the addition to what she talks about when she says that, when Chamel says that, people want to know who they are. And what I look at is people want to be able to see themselves in the future and project themselves in different ways and define who they are as well. I grew up in I love sci-fi. I grew up going to comic book conventions and sci-fi conventions. And, I also went to school for communications. So it kind of came out of the love for both things. As I met comic book creators and sci-fi writers, a lot of them, there's so many that were of color as I traveled around the country, and people just didn't know. So I said, here I am as a communicator. I can grab a camera, I can report, I can promote, and so that's the crux of what Black Sci-Fi TV is really to not only give an awareness, but also to try to inspire people to go ahead and write that book or draw whatever it is and there are everyday people who access sci-fi who may never go to a comic book convention, but every Friday night like to watch X-Files or something,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. You're exercising your imagination, and and it's never too late. So that's really what we try to do, and we're celebrating 5 years on Philly Cam, so we're
Yes,
Ooh.
very very proud of
congrats.
that. So thank you for having us here as well.
Yes. And I love that you mentioned that because I didn't even realize it when I was like asking you all like because I just think of these shows as separate, but it is kind of like
Hmm.
who we are, right? It's looking at like our past, right? Like our history and like where we come from, and then it's looking into the future of like who we could be and how we can envision ourselves there. Yeah, so that's such a I love that. I love this connection. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
I wanted to start one of my questions over to Maurice actually about because your show has a lot of different elements that are happening in it because there's sometimes you're at conventions, you're doing events, sometimes you're having interviews, right? Chatting with people and getting to know about people in the industry or just like people are geeking out about things. And so I just wanted to hear from you like how do you manage all of those moving parts and like when you're working with other people in your team to make sure that each of those ways that you're capturing media are getting the right attention.
Well, I first of all I attribute it to the team period, because like you said, there's so many different styles that we shoot, and because it's sci-fi, I think there's an expectation of the viewer or the audience that we are going to be a little more creative in our approach. So as soon as I know about an event or a person that we want to interview, I pick up the phone and I start making calls as much as I can. Step one for me is always to be in a network of creatives, so that you have access to people, and so it means a little bit of me being out there and socializing and interacting with other camera people, other editors, other audio people. And Philly Cam is a great hub for that. And then really trying to understand what the shoot calls for, as
Hmm.
much as you can ahead of time. So let's say, the way we would go to a comic book convention, and the staff, we may need more staff and different type of equipment versus being in the studio at Philly Cam doing a one-on-one interview. All of those things, and as soon as I get the information, I'm reaching out to people, I'm making phone calls, I'm trying to lock in dates with them, and always have backups just in case.
Hmm.
That's really like step number one for me.
Yeah, it's super important to have a backup because you can't always control all of the variables, right? So you have to
Mhm.
like work hard to control the ones that you can. Like,
Mhm.
all right, it's gonna
Right.
work.
Yeah, and I like to for the cruise. I know everybody's like, you want to get the best cameraman, the best audio. You don't always have to have that, and I like to have a mix actually of people, because sometimes the best camera guy may want to do audio, or there are some people who just I just like to be around a production, and can I just be involved? Yeah, you can carry equipment for us. Uh, and so to have that kind of versatility, within a team, we're able to do a lot more, and address a lot of the issues that can go wrong and do go wrong in a production, and some of the things that can go right. So I always like to have a mixture of skill levels, and also there are things that, in terms of my image of what I want the interview to be, or the feel, the look and the feel, and you want to be able to sit down with your team and talk about it, communicate it, and also listen to them, because they may have interesting ways of conveying the same message that you want, that you may have never thought of.
Yeah, especially when you're working with, like you were saying, people who aren't like the go-to sound or camera person, right? Because now they have like a fresh look, right? Like they're not like, okay, every time I go in, I do this X, Y, and Z. You have someone who's like, could we try this? Or like, let's
Right.
think about that,
Right.
and to be
Hmm.
flexible and be like, yeah, go ahead, try that out. Like you never know what it's gonna bring to the production until you just let someone figure it out. And both of your productions are really interesting. They're very unique in the way that they're presenting information, and a lot of thought, like forethought, comes into the productions. So I wanted to ask Shamel because you have a lot of pre-production that goes into your show. There's a lot of planning that you're doing to try to get everything together, and a part of that is that you produce your program, but you also crew on a lot of shows too. Like you provide support on other programs, so like what do I need to be a good crew member? So let me make sure I do that as a producer. So I wanted to ask, like, what are some of the elements and things that go into your pre-production that you feel like really helps and supports the crew members when they come in, so that they feel like they can give you the product that you're looking for?
Pre-production is the most important part of everything. I mean, everything's important, but pre-production can make or break you. That's what I learned from crewing on a lot of sets. Um, and for me, really, pre-production is all about creating an environment that you want to be in. I want to be in an environment where my producer knows what they want. They're prepared. To Maurice's point, I want to be in an environment where not only do they respect my time, they respect my strengths, right? I've been on
Absolutely.
crews where and it's not that, you got to be able to get in there and do whatever is needed. But when you have a crew that is multifaceted, which I did, I am very blessed. I lucked up and I had the best crew at Philly Cam. I don't care what any other producers think they had the best. I had the best because I had people who are very strong in certain areas. You have one of them who's crewing what you're doing right now.
Yes.
He was key to what I did. And what I saw sometimes, you're taught something at Philly Cam. You guys teach us how to do things. And then when we go live with it, sometimes we forget, right? It's my show. I'm the producer. But guess what? I told Knight, he's my director. He's in charge. I never overrule him on anything on the set. It's all about respect and the environment that you create. And I said, you should know what you need when you get in there. But sometimes you got to be flexible. You got to have a plan A, plan B, and plan C. And
Hmm.
sometimes you allow the crew to make the decision and they feel like they're a part of a team as opposed to just someone who's in there schlepping to just put on a show. And that's what you really want to create a team feel. And it's really all about you. You create the environment, and it needs to be an environment of gratitude
Yeah,
because they're
absolutely.
not getting paid. They're not getting paid. They're giving up their time to help you with your vision. So you come in with a mindset of gratitude, and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, I agree completely. Um, like even sometimes when you are being paid, it's like not industry or it's coming from a place of passion. Like it's something they care about, obviously,
Mhm.
and something that's just very unique to like a Philly Cam production versus if you were to come into a set where there's certain expectations. There's like the hierarchy of like this crew. Um has a different feel than when you come into a Philly Cam production where we're doing this together. Like we all want this to come out amazing, and the only way that's going to happen is if we're working together,
Yeah.
and making that room for everyone to really kind of pave their way in a show is really beautiful, and has shown in both of your programs how beneficial that can be to have that kind of collaborative environment. And just like general, like, is there an experience or a memory you have where you were working with a crew, where you're like, oh wow, I didn't think of that, or like maybe it's just an eye-opening experience for how to approach working together as a team?
All the time. First, I have to disagree with Shamel. Black Sci-Fi TV's team is the best team there is. Okay, so I have to disagree with that part. But just recently, we went on a shoot in Fairmount Park at an event at the School of the Future, and
Ooh.
Yeah.
yeah, and this event was called a bunksai, which is Japanese for a cultural affair. And what they did was they brought some Japanese students and Black kids out of the community together and kind of shared experiences. And one of the things that was the super collider for that was anime. Okay,
Yeah.
so So with that, there were a lot of kids there. There were a lot of artists, and really looking at what to cover, how to cover, who we have. Take inventory of the team and say, okay, you're really good at just going out and getting interesting shots. So this is what we want you to focus on. You're really good at doing the interview style. So this is what we will set you up over here in this corner. And so we had two camera people, backups, audio, and just really it was really managing all of that and not bumping over each other, to
Hmm.
make sure we're not interviewing the same people. And there were some images that my camera people thought of, was like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we went and shot this way? I was like, yeah, yeah, go for it, let's see what it looks like. um the other part of it is, I always like to try to level set with my team about time.
Mm.
For me, I've worked my way up the ranks from production assistant to cameraman to director to where I am now. So I know you have to have patience. I can't go into this shoot saying, it's 2 o'clock, I gotta go. Unless I say, this is until 2 p.m. I try to tell my team, listen, really block a major part of your day out. And if it goes long, I will make sure I buy you food. I'll take a
Hmm.
break, but I really need you to, and if you really have to go, then maybe this particular shoot isn't it, because production can go as long as it's going to go.
Yeah.
And you really don't have control over that. So you need people to have that endurance, to do that. And, to say, okay, yeah, I'll stay longer. I'll do whatever I need to do. Um, and those people that do that are golden to me. And so I try to make sure that I go back and work with those people again. I thank them, however I can offset. If I can pay them a little bit, I will. They definitely get credit on what we do, free t-shirts, whatever it is that I can do.
Yeah, like any way to compensate. And I think it means a lot, like if you um have taken notice of what people like enjoy and what they're good at too, to be like, hey, you're like, I really liked how you went and like captured that interview. Like you have a great personality to talk to these people, you get them to open up. I want you to do that. And like to feel seen, sometimes that's enough to be like, oh, you
Right,
noticed? Like that's
right,
so
right.
cool.
Right. And not only that, but one of the people that filmed and did a quick edit at this event I just mentioned, he was able to take a clip of his. We just took a short clip. I showed it to the organization that we shot. They put it on their website, and then they did all the social hashtags and were able to give him credit that way. So then he has it as his portfolio as to what
That's
he's doing as
awesome.
well. So, that's as good as money as well, too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to showcase your work, and have the freedom to pick that. And what about you, Shamel? What is an instance that you had?
Every time we were together was just like an amazing kind of like, it felt like the stars always aligned, except for that time we had that fire emergency.
Oh
No one was
no.
there. Um, but no, what really stands out is when we have people who aren't normally on our crew sub in, and they're like, please, anytime you need help, let me know. One time, I like to play music while we're like
Mhm.
getting set up, and I had Michael Jackson. It was just a whole thing of all Michael Jackson, and everybody, we was just jamming, and just, it was just a nice flow. And then me and my cousin Tori, we decided to skip one of the songs because it was like an older Jackson one,
Yeah.
and somebody almost beat us up because that was my jam. But it's just really rewarding, I would say. The later shows, I did a show where normally I would have one guest, and I did a show where I had three guests. So it was like lots and lots of people. And Night made me redo teleprompter things like 5 and 6 times. It was in, but that's what he told me to do, and I had to do it. And it just made me feel that, it just felt really good. Every instance was a great learning experience. And I would say the most important thing for a producer to do when you're in the studio is to be still. Don't have your crew looking for you. Just find your spot and be prepared enough to just not be working, to just
Mhm.
be the direction and giving people what they need when you're there. Because it's really in feeding your people. Did we talk about feeding?
That's what
Yeah.
I was just
Right.
about to ask.
The number one thing to do is make sure that you feed your folks, because my people were coming in right after work,
Mhm.
after working all day. Some were teachers, so they were in classrooms, captains of industry, people working all day, and they would come in. You make sure that you feed your people
And
and
yeah,
don't.
feeding people is so important. And sometimes just that is like payment in a way, like, oh, let me, pay for your transportation, and then let me make sure that you get fed so that you are not spending all, because it does take time, right? It takes a long time to make something, and sometimes it goes over more than what you're expecting, and, and you're like, please stay.
Yeah.
But it's
Always.
worth
Yeah.
it,
Hmm.
being in there, and getting to learn things, because I think that's important too as a crew. Is that you are also witnessing this production, right? Like, you have access to this event, or you're getting to learn about this thing that you wouldn't have otherwise unless you were there, part of the crew. So I always value those experiences where I'm like, I didn't know that. That's so cool. I'm gonna have another question for you both, and just like, what advice do you have for maybe like a new producer who um, might feel not as confident yet in the role of producer, right? And telling people what to do, or not sure how to convey like their vision with other people, and also the stress that comes with having to let things go a little bit. So, like, what advice would you have for a new producer on how to really get along with their crew, and get their points across so that they feel like supported, and that they are also being a supporter?
The most important thing is to have a production plan, to have a
Hmm.
full production plan written out, because you can't just talk it out and explain to people. You need to have a full production plan with a script, with a set design, full thing written out. By having that, you will be able to easily see where your issues are and be able to correct them. People will be able to help you better with a
Hmm.
production plan. That's number one. Number two, do not be married to your production plan at all,
Yeah.
right? It's going to change your vision of these colors and this certain thing doing that. Your babies are going to get killed, and you just have to get used to it and just realize, just go in there thinking about remember what your big vision is. What is your reason you're in there? The reason you're in there is not so you can have this certain kind of chair and set and this color and this rug, okay? It's because you're here for a higher purpose, to get your message across. And
Hmm.
keep that in your mind the whole time that you're doing this. But you have to have a production plan. And you need to work with people that you feel comfortable with. You need to at least have one other person on your crew that you can spend time with, sharing the vision and going back and forth and making sure. You can't do that with everybody, because everybody does not, they don't have time.
Yeah.
Whoever your director is, you need to be, and they need to understand what your vision is. So when you get there, they can be you. Especially if you're the host, then you can do your hosting job and let them do their job. So that would be, for a new producer, production plan.
That's excellent. That's a great point. It's like a little bit of like having your stuff together, because that makes the crew feel confident, right? They're like, oh, whew, they know what they're doing. Even if you don't know what you're doing, right? You still have a little bit, but also to still maintain that flexibility, right?
I agree with what she said, and as a new producer, for me, I always look inwards about what I can do, what I'm able to do. Meaning that sometimes you're going to have to be with the team and pick that camera up, or move that box, or cook that food to serve.
Hmm.
And the more you do that, the more grateful people are. Everyone wants to have a vested interest in what you do and how you do it. And of course, with the planning, I would also say, you want to meet as soon as you can, and really try to convey what your image is. Get examples. If you're not able to express it, you can say, okay, I want to do it like this. This is what I saw, and this is what I want to try to do. And yeah, let your camera people, let your audio people give some suggestions. At the end of the day, you're the producer, you want it to be a certain way, but also understand that you can convey one message a million different ways. Honesty and looking at the people that you get along with and don't get along with personality wise.
Mhm.
You don't want, well, I don't want anybody submissive to me, but I want us to get along. We,
Mhm.
you know, we definitely argue during production. Okay, I argue with my director. Camera people, and hey, they say, well, it's not working. Okay, well, grab that or whatever, and we talk to the side. Okay, at least me and the director, because if me and the director are in a conflict on site, that can create doubt and dissension among the team as well.
Mhm.
And you just don't want that. So, we'll go in another room, we'll have it out, and we'll try to get a resolution, or we'll say we'll do it two different ways. But at the end of the day, I think, like she said, that plan will drive everything. If you put it on paper, if you get it out, then you kind of know what your perimeters are, and you can change the combinations as well. Also, I say get out there and socialize to find people. They're not always going to come to you. Luckily, at Philly Cam, they have a database, and there's a synergy at Philly Cam that you really don't get in other production places. There are places where they don't want to
Mhm.
talk to you. It's all
Yeah.
secret and it's all a click. And if you didn't do this shoot, then you're not going to do that shoot. But at Philly Cam, everybody is just very, very open and willing to work with you and explain and take advantage of that. Talk to everybody, and really find out who you get along with, who you don't, or they may do some other areas. There are people that I talk to that all of a sudden I found out they do graphics, or they may
Mhm.
even know something about the subject matter that I didn't know. So there's opportunities all everywhere. Always look, and also I just suggest working with people from all different levels. Don't always just go crazy trying to get the expert. You do want some other people, and give them an opportunity to shine, and they will. Yeah, and then I'm just lucky that my director, I've known her for years, so thank God we can argue, tooth and nail, and then in a minute we're back to joking again.
Yeah, there's no hard
Um,
feelings. It's like
right, no hard
this
feelings
is
at
just
all.
gonna get this done.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. So we just try to make sure that, and hey, she'll put me in check if I'm not doing right, or I'm looking at the wrong thing. Wait a minute, no,
Yeah.
we said we're supposed to be over here doing this. This is where we're gonna be. Okay. And thank
Yeah.
God you have a director that will offer that kind of feedback and feel
Yeah.
like they can do that for you, and they have a sense of urgency and ownership with the project as well.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
about the team. It's higher than the hierarchy.
Right.
Yes.
Hmm.
I love that,
Hmm.
Jamel. Always with the phrases. And, yeah, that is such a amazing part of what Philly Cam is, right? Is that, the Philly Cam community is much as a resource as, like, access to equipment or things like that. It's like this team
Hmm.
that's bringing these, amazing ideas and, opportunities for you that you aren't gonna find in other productions.
If you know people who aren't Philly crew, get them certified. If you know somebody
Yeah.
that's really good and knows it, okay, come on, let's get you certified. I'll help pay.
Well, I brought
And
my
that'll
whole family up. I brought my family
right,
to Philly
right.
Camp.
Right. So now you have that
Didn't I,
flexibility if you
Gabe?
have some other people. Hmm.
Yes, yeah, bring them in, all the opportunities. Anyone who says, "I'd really like to work on this," or I have this idea for a show," it's like, "Well, guess what?
Preach.
You can make it."
Hmm.
Preach.
Um,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Thank you both so much for joining me on this show. Definitely wanna make sure that they check out your program, so if you can tell us when, each of your shows airs, and then we'll wrap up and say goodbye.
I think it airs Wednesday at 7:30, and I go live Thursdays at every other Thursday at 3 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook.
The name again of your show? The
Genealogy Quickstart. Thank you, assistant producer.
and mine is Black Sci-Fi TV, and we come on every Thursday at 6:30.
Excellent. Ooh, that's wonderful. So make sure that you check those shows out. They're really great programs, and now you've gotten a glimpse behind the scenes on how they were produced. And again, I am your host, Gabe Castro. Thank you so much for joining me on the Producer Circle, and we will see you next time.